Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next upper intermediate class. We've got a lot to cover. As you can see here above, we're going to look at the narrative tenses, which is the past perfect continuous. And narrative means telling a story. So narrative tenses are those that you tell stories in. And the continuous form is a very popular tense to tell a story in. Also, of course, the past. But we're going to look at this. We're going to look at so and such and that. It's a common sort of phrase or turn of phrases that we use in English. We're going to do vocabulary air travel. This is really interesting. Most of us are traveling, so we need to know these things. I think it's really helpful. This is a very practical part of the lesson. And then we're going to look at irregular past forms and sentence rhythm. So let's get started with listening and vocabulary. So here in the beginning, the listening, the audio files are going to do all the work. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't have to do anything. You have to just follow the directions and let the audio files help you. They're really helpful. Now, actually, we've got more audio files here. 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, and 3.8. But this time I want to go through a few of these terms because they're just so important. Now, interestingly, customs is something I've rarely had to go through. Customs, I guess, when you're going into a different country. So when I go to the US or to Canada or come to Europe, or even when I was going to other places, they give you an option in the airport, don't they? So you can you say it's goods to claim. Goods, let me write that down actually. So it's voluntary. So you can go, there's a green section where you can just walk out of the airport. It says the green area of customs is no goods to declare. This means you have nothing that you're bringing in the country from another country that's of big value. Now, this is an honor system. This is voluntary. It's on the honor system. That means they're trusting you. Now, in some countries, they will randomly test people, randomly check people, which means they'll say, "Excuse me, sir, come here." And they'll ask you to open your bags and they'll check it. But this is a random sampling. Maybe 1 in 100 are tested. Very small, low numbers, but you have that chance. I've been checked once in my life and I've traveled a lot. It was not often. All right, so I don't have a lot of familiarity with customs, but everything else, obviously we do. I'll just tell you, I have a distinction. I've missed about 7 flights in my life. It's a lot of flights to miss. It's a lot of money to lose. The worst incident, very funny, I was in London and we went out with my friends and I went straight to the airport because I didn't want to sleep and wake up at 2 in the morning or 3 because I would sleep for 1 hour. So I went straight to the airport, very tired. Guess what I did? I fell asleep at the gate and woke up after my flight left. Can you imagine that? I woke up after my flight took off. Very bad feeling. I hope that hasn't happened to you. But this is so here we have boarding times, flight times. Is your flight on time? Is it delayed? Delayed means it's late. On time means it's on time. And then we have if you look on the board, it will say flight boarding. Boarding means people are getting on the plane. So you have to get there. And then they have something which is not written here, but you have to know this. Last call. Last call for flight 435 to London. Last call means they're going to close in 5 minutes. You've got to get there. Last call for flight 435 to London. Anyone wanting to fly to London today needs to be at the gate in 5 minutes or we're going to close it. And the rule is once the gate closes, the airlines can't open it again. So this is a law, and I've experienced this. I've had a bad experience with this where you just couldn't get on. I could see my plane, but they couldn't open the gate. So this is a very bad feeling. All right, so you have a boarding pass, and of course they ask you to check for different things. Obviously you all know that you can't go through security with liquids. You can't have a big bottle of water with you. They will ask you to throw it out. Please, sorry, the shampoo is too big. This is water. We can't let you through. We can't let you through with this water. You're going to have to throw it away here. So you have to throw away a new bottle of water or big shampoo, or sadly, even more expensive things, if it's too big, if it's above regulation. Has that happened to you before where you've had to give things away because it was too big? Very frustrating. I hope not. I hope it hasn't happened. Now, let's go through a few of these because I think it's good. And I know the listening file is doing that, but some of these are really important. And this one I have to talk about. Turbulence is something that drives me crazy. Actually, it makes me very uncomfortable. Do you know what turbulence is? Turbulence is when you're in the air and the plane goes through very strong winds that might be going in different directions. In the plane, it causes the plane to jump or bump. This is called turbulence. And sometimes if it's very bad turbulence, we call it severe turbulence. Let me write that word down. That's a nice one. It's a terrible feeling, but a nice word. Severe turbulence. This means you have to wear your seatbelt because you could be injured. You could get hurt. You could be injured if you're not wearing your seatbelt because you could be thrown out of your seat. You could hit your head on the ceiling of the plane. That would be very painful. All right, so I always wear my seatbelt, actually this way, not this way. It goes around your waist, the seatbelt. I don't mind wearing it. I prefer to wear it. And I have a question. Do you have a favorite area of the plane to sit in? For those of you who fly, obviously not everyone's flying, but for those of you who can fly and have flown, where is your favorite place on the plane? I'll tell you mine. I don't prefer aisle. Aisle is near the walkway. I prefer the window seats, the seats next to the window, not in the aisle, but next to the window. This is my favorite part of the plane to sit in anyway. All right, let's go ahead. I'm curious where your favorite part is. You can let me know. So now these are great. These are great to learn and memorize when you are traveling. Have a good trip. I hope the weather's great. You're going to do 3.7 on your own, and you're also going to do 3.8 on your own. This is very important. These are very important phrases that you need to know about if you're going to be flying. And these are what we call phrasal verbs. They can be very difficult to remember. So go through this carefully. And if you miss one of them, repeat it until you remember it, because these are very important phrasal verbs. A plane takes off, you get off the plane, you fill in a form. Sometimes a taxi or your relatives or your spouse, your husband or friend, drop you off at departures. Departures is where you go to get on the plane. They drop you off at departures. You get on the plane. You check in with your ticket. You need your ticket to check in or your passport. And then if you're lucky, you have someone waiting to pick you up. All right, I've just given you the answers, but I'm doing that so you can practice this over and over. And speaking of practicing this over and over, you're going to use all of these in the speaking practice. All right, now we're going to listening. Don't overlook the listening, very important. EasyJet denies passengers asked to vote. You're going to listen to an airline pilot talking on the radio, and you're going to answer these questions right here. Great exercise. Do take this seriously. Of course, all the answers are in the bottom, at the bottom of the, you can see right here at the very bottom, you've got all the answers very conveniently located. Now, this is part of the grammar, this short passage, and you're now going to answer whether we're using past perfect or we have here past past perfect or past continuous in this case. We have several here. We know what a delayed flight is, I guess. That's when it's late. What about a budget airline? A budget airline is a low-cost airline. A low-cost airline is a fancy way of saying cheap. It's not very expensive, although, as we know, they will add micro bill you. Micro means they add little things all along the way to gradually raise that bill so that you actually pay more than you originally planned. So you're going to read that and fill it in. Do we want simple past or past perfect here? We have several to choose from. And then, of course, the answers are in the back. Now you have, that's a warm-up because you're going to look at, this is the grammar exercise, looking at all the narrative tenses, past simple, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. These are what we call the tenses that we tell stories in. So let's practice, and I'm going to do your audio recording. We're not going to listen to this. I won't add it. You're going to listen to me instead. We arrived at the airport and checked in. This is past simple. This is to talk about consecutive actions. Do you see that right here? Consecutive actions. We did this, then we did that. Number two, we were having dinner when the plane hit some turbulence. So dinner is long, and during that time, you hit turbulence. So what do? We use past continuous, we're having dinner, to describe a longer continuous action. And then in the middle, we use past simple to talk about something that happened there. So I was teaching was teaching when the phone rang. So it rang now here, but I was teaching for this time. So here's 1 hour. The phone rang here at minute 37, for example. So at 9 o'clock, most people on the plane were reading or were sleeping. So here we use it for a longer duration to describe an action. Number three, when we arrived at the airport, we suddenly realized we had left one of the suitcases. So this is past perfect. So we arrive, but before arriving at the airport, we left our suitcase, but we didn't know it. So we arrive, and then we want to tell something that happened before the arrival, so we use past perfect. So we're talking about the past, this, then this, then this, but then we want to talk about something here that requires past perfect. When you reference something before your story in the past. We suddenly realized we had left 2 hours ago. We had 2 hours before that arrival at the airport, we left our suitcase. Very, very frustrating. I hope you've never lost or forgotten anything at the airport. It's very frustrating when you do. We had been flying for about 2 hours when suddenly the captain told us to fasten our seatbelts. So we use past perfect, number three, to talk about earlier past, which happened before the main event. And then number four, we use past perfect continuous to talk about longer continuous or action situations that started before the main event. So that's the whole thing with past perfect, whether it's continuous or not, it's discussing something before the main event in the past. So if it's before that, we use past perfect. You're going to practice this now because we've got right here a lot of different, we've got two different sets of homework. Pronunciation of irregular verbs. I've written these out because they're very difficult. I don't like these pictures at all. So I've written them out. You're going to now address or choose which of these words go in which column. Try to take this seriously because this tells you if you understand the sounds of English. And this tells you if you're getting closer to sounding more natural, like a natural speaker of English. So which of those words have a verb that sounds like boot or fish or horse or bird? Actually, the British say horse differently. So listen to the audio file. They say horse. So cod and horse are the same. Not in American English, but in British English they are. Number 5, phone, up, egg, train, a. So we have these different vowel sounds. You have to match the words in the box. I find this very difficult. So if you struggle a bit, don't worry, I would too. I think it's difficult. So take your time and then practice these words to make sure your vowel sounds are the same. All right. Speaking is what you're going to do with a speaking partner. And here's a way to tell stories. So we've got it right here, telling an anecdote. An anecdote is a story, an interesting story about your life. And so this is a way to do it. It shows you how to set the scene, how to talk about the main events, how to say what happened in the end. All of these are important to use, so use them and use them wisely. Have a great study session, and I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.